Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with another new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting and it dates back to the Mughal era. Now you might be thinking whenever Basim's cooking, he thinks about the cuisines that have come from the Mughal times, but the reason behind that is that Pakistani food has a lot of connections with the Mughals. Why? Because these people loved all the luxurious things in life. And when you talk about the luxurious food in Pakistan, somehow or the other the links go back to them, and that's how it's done. Now in Pakistan, today's recipe is very common. It's basically peas and beef mince, and we call it Matar Qeema. Now Matar means peas, Qeema means beef mince. Back in the day, this recipe was made with mutton mince or with beef mince or with lamb mince. And on the other hand, because there weren't many machines, they used to make the mince with big knives which are very heavy, also known as the butcher knife. Apart from that, this recipe is very easy. And the ingredients for today are very easy. You can easily find them in any store around you. And if you cannot, you can always go to a desi store where they have a lot of spices. You can easily get it from there. We need around 1 kilogram of beef. If you do not want to use beef, you can also use mutton and lamb. It will taste really good. And if you're staying away from red meat, what you can do is you can also use chicken mince. But let me tell you that chicken mince wouldn't do justice to this recipe. Apart from that, you need some peas. Now, if you can see, we have around 1.5 cups of peas. These are peeled. If you go buy peas, you'll at least need 1 kilogram of peas with the peel on, with the pod on, and then after this you will get this much of quantity. Apart from that, if you can't find fresh peas, what you can do is that you can also buy the frozen ones, or apart from that, you can also buy the canned ones. Then you need some coriander, around 2 medium onions. You need some clarified butter and some yogurt. Apart from that, you need some cumin seeds, some coriander seeds. You need some red chili powder. You will be needing some turmeric powder. Then you will be needing some garam masala. Then you will be needing some ginger, some garlic, which should be fresh, and some green chilies with some salt and some lemon on the side. So all of these are easily available, and now what we'll do is we shall start cooking. Now usually what people do is that when you buy frozen peas, they're usually 50% boiled, or they're cooked in somehow or the other, majorly boiling or steaming are the methods that are used. Today what we'll do is we shall just take a small pan, and once we have the pan, we shall just put it on the heat and bring it up. Okay, now when the water will come to boil, I'll add the peas, and then we shall boil the peas for at least 8 minutes. If you do not boil the peas won't be soft till the core, and it wouldn't give you a nice flavor or texture of the recipe. The peas need to be really nicely boiled, and they should be really soft till the core. So reduce the heat to, let's say, medium, and we could put the peas on the side just for a bit. Apart from that, we will be needing another frying pan. I'll put it over here, and for that what we'll do is we shall add some clarified butter. I'll increase the heat to medium, and before that what I'll do is I shall just take some ginger. I'll keep it over here. We'll just half it for now, and we'll keep the rest on the side. What I'll do now is I shall just finely slice the ginger. For that, I'll just make these slices with my paring knife today, and then we shall just cut it as thin as possible. The thinner it is, the better it is. Why? Because when the ginger will be thin, it will give the perfect flavor in every bite. If it's too thick, what will happen is the flavor shall get a little compromised. I'll keep the remaining over here, and we shall just add the half cup of clarified butter, which we will be using for today's recipe. Take the lid off. It's summers in Islamabad now. Not that hot, but you could say that the air conditioners are on now. So if you see, the clarified butter is much you could say thinner, smoother as compared to the winters, because when winters come, usually what happens is that this solidifies a lot. Okay, so clarified butter is hot. What I'll do is I'll just pick up the ginger and toss it in the pan. I'll just pick up my chef knife again, and now we'll transfer all of this. As you can see, when the pan will come to heat, then it shall start frying, and then we shall continue. On the other hand, what I'll do is I'll take around 5 pieces of garlic, this recipe. We shall just place them on the board like this, and we shall just press them, and then we shall finely chop them. Slowly and gradually just keep chopping them. And we shall not finely chop it. Why? Because I would like the texture of the garlic to be enjoyed for this recipe. This is how it was made back in the day, but the only difference was that the utensils which were used were usually made out of copper, so that it would give a better flavor. And apart from that, back in the day, copper was considered to be the best, you could say, pan or wok that could be used for the king, as it was fit for the king. Okay, now what is happening is that the water has come to heat. I shall just add the peas in it, and I shall add around half a teaspoon of salt. Remember, seasoning is very important. If you season your food well, then only you'll get the best result. The ginger and garlic have come to heat. What I'll do now is I shall just start mixing it without adding any salt. This goes on the side. And now what do we need? We need to add the coriander seeds, but for that I shall put it on the board first and just press them so that the seeds start splitting. Once the seeds split, then you shall get the flavor or aroma you require for this recipe. Now do not waste them. Pick up your knife, or if you have a scraper, transfer all of this to the pan and let it fry. So when this will fry, you'll get the best result. Why? Because coriander seeds needs a lot of heat. Now I'll reduce the heat of the peas to medium, and we'll give this another 30 seconds to fry. Apart from that, what would I need for this recipe? We need the onions to be translucent. Remember that translucent needs to be the core of the onions today. Why? Because if you change the color to brown, the flavor of the recipe will completely change. So what I'll do is I shall just slice the onions, turn it around, and then add it to the pan. Slowly and gradually will take you a long way, remember that. And then place it in the clarified butter. We shall fry this for around, let's say, 3 minutes. Transfer it over here. As you can see, the ginger and garlic have started to get brown. So this is the right time to add the room temperature onions. It will bring down the temperature of the pan drastically, which is going to reduce the browning of all the other things. Add around half a teaspoon of salt. Shake it up, increase the heat, and let it cook. This is done. Just mix it up, and we shall give the onions a lid. The lid goes on top, the heat goes towards the medium side, and now we shall let this cook. So now we'll give this around 2 minutes, and we'll give this another 5 minutes as everything's boiling properly. But now you might be thinking there's so many green chilies. Now they're partially red, it's Mother Nature, we can't help it much, but we shall consider it green only. So what I'll do is, for the 2 green chilies which will go in, we shall finely slice them. We need to slice the green chilies, only 2 pieces, and then after that what I'll do is I shall add everything to the pan in a different manner, the remaining green chilies I mean. Slowly and gradually keep the cut similar to the other ones. You don't need the sticks go in the dustbin. Take the lid off and place the green chilies in so that the oil gets a nice flavor of the chilies, and then when we add all the other ingredients, the aroma will intensify. Mix it up. Just push it down a bit, place it back, reduce the heat to low, give it a lid, and now let it cook for, let's say, 3 minutes more. So till the time this is cooking, we'll go for a short break, and once we're back, I'll let you know what to do next. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break I did nothing and I just waited for you. You could see over here now that everything is nicely cooked. The onions are nicely translucent and they're not brown. On the other hand, over here the peas are also done. So what I'll do now is I shall now drain the peas out. So for that I shall just take this and I shall just do it in front of you over here. What I'll do is I'll pick this up, keep it over here, pick the peas up and transfer them into this. So once I'm done transferring, I'll tell you what to do next. So the peas are out. Now the water you're seeing over here, I would like to tell you something about it. When you basically boil meat in water, what do you get? You get stock. That is usually called either beef bone stock, mutton stock, chicken stock, even duck stock. So now whenever you boil vegetables, and if you're a vegetarian, this is what you will save. This is the vegetarian or the vegan stock which we shall be using today. So I'll keep this on the side. Today we'll be using this. It's not waste, it's actually good for health. And I'll transfer all the peas over here. And if you can see, the pea is super soft. It just split, and I'll throw this in the dustbin. Why? Because I cannot eat while I am cooking. Okay, over here the pan is also nicely and fairly cold, and now what we shall do is we shall increase the heat and add cumin to it. The cumin goes in and we add a little bit of red chilies. The red chili powder also goes in. Whatever you've used goes at the back, remember that. And it is actually rhyming. Okay, so just mix it up, fold it properly, and let it fry for 30 seconds while you're moving it around. Now, we've given it, let's say, around 15 seconds. I'll just pick up the beef now and we shall add it to the pan directly. I'll just take the cling wrap off and toss all of the beef into the spices over here. Toss it out. And now remember, it needs to be cooked on really high heat. So for that, first what I'll do is I shall just start pressing the beef down. And I'll start folding it. You have to make sure that the beef is not sticking together and it has a lot of, you could say, venues for the water to go in. Now you might be thinking, what is he talking about? As I told you, we shall be using the pea broth over here. I'll take a ladle full, transfer it into the meat. Now what will happen is when the meat gets all this heat or the steam, it will start splitting and it won't stick together. That is what we want. I shall add only, let's say, a cup and a half. Place the lid on top and let it cook on high heat for 2 minutes. I'm just going to clear out my counter as this cooks and also the stove. And now next, what is the step? You need all the green chilies, but I'll be using the paring knife. I shall just pull out the stem of each of the chilies slowly, and then I shall just make a cut. So I'm slitting them. Why? So that the heat goes till the core. I want the green chilies to be full. Why? Because for this recipe, people in Pakistan enjoy it like this. We shall just cook it on high heat in the food as whole. Keep it over here, pick this up. You don't need your paring knife anymore. It goes at the back. All the stems go in the dustbin and we take the lid off. The lid goes off. You can see it's on high heat and we shall start pressing it so that the meat starts cooking properly. Now, as you can see, that first we fried the ginger in the oil. That means the oil had the flavor. But remember, the flavor changes when it hits water and when it hits clarified butter or oil. So it completely transforms. So now the remaining ginger shall be used. What I'll do is I shall just cut it or slice it as I'm doing it. And then again really go thin, as thin as you can. This will give the water I've added in the beef mince a nice aroma. This aroma will take the meat forward in terms of flavor, and that is what we shall be kneading. Slowly and gradually push it on the side, and this is done. Pick the ginger, throw it in the dustbin, let this cook, and transfer all of this over here. Now you might be thinking he's so gracious whenever it comes to ginger. For some recipes you require it, remember that. Now what I'll do is I'll start folding it. I reduce the heat just momentarily, and put it to full. Now what I'll do on the other hand is I shall take a fresh wok, place it over here, and bring the heat up. So before I bring the heat up, whatever I don't need over here, I shall just clean it out, and I'll tell you the next step followed by all of this. Everything's done. Now the next step is to basically cook the peas in a little bit of oil. Let's say around 4 tablespoons of oil goes in the wok. I'll keep the remaining on the side if I need it later on. Now as you can see, the peas are nicely boiled, but if I add it over here, there's no oil over here and there's a little bit of water. So we need to cook the peas in oil, fry them lightly, and then add it to the meat. So what I'll do is, as you can see, the heat is high. Just coat all of the pan with some oil and transfer the peas into this. We'll add around a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It goes in. We don't need any more. And we'll mix it up. Take it back on the heat. And mix it up again. Now let me show you something. The peas have split and they have also kind of gained its size. Why? Because we are frying it. On the other hand, this is done. You could say water has evaporated. So now it's time to add the spices. We shall add the turmeric powder. Then we shall add the garam masala. It goes in. It smells beautiful. Remember that. Start mixing it. And this is done. I'll keep it over here momentarily, and the peas are also ready. So what I'll do now is I shall transfer all the peas into this, let the oil drip, and take it on the side. Pick the green chilies, add it in the pan, and start folding them again. Reduce the heat to the pilot. Mix up the peas nicely. As you can see, the mince is perfectly done. Do not break it down. And now place a lid on top. Now when I place the lid on top, I shall start counting around 5 minutes before I can add all the other ingredients. But before that, I shall just increase the heat to full, pick up this and just add a ladle of water to it. Now the reason behind me adding the water is so that on high heat it will start steaming, and when I keep the lid on, the green chilies will get nice and soft. So till the time this is cooking, what we'll do next is we shall just wait for it, and then I'll let you know what to do next. So as you can see, we did the recipe in, you could say, 3 parts. The first part was basically we prepared all the onions, with some ginger and some garlic, and the ginger was divided for two parts. The latter one and the one which was prior to that, in which I just sliced the ginger and I added it to the oil. Remember one thing, I'm teaching you as I go. It's just not about cooking on Indus Cuisine, it's also about educating your viewers. So what did I do? I basically, the remaining ginger was then added to the part where the water was. Why? Because the flavor when it's released in the water is different as compared to the oil part. And then on the other hand, what I did was I boiled the peas. Why? Because these peas were raw, they weren't packeted or they weren't from the deep freezer. They were fresh peas out of the pot, and then what I did was I drained them out, let them cool down. When it comes to room temperature, remember that when the peas come back to the room temperature, then I fried them again so that they split apart and they open. And then I add all the peas into the meat over here. This is done. Reduce the heat again. As I've told you, the water would have evaporated by now. Just mix it up. And now you can see that the meat has this nice flavor, or you could say that charred look that has come from the oil. Now I shall just start mixing it slowly and gradually. As I told you, the chilies will stay as they are. You will not damage them. Now it hasn't ended over here. What I'll do next is I shall add some garlic on this stage. Why? Because when the garlic is added later on, the flavor changes completely. Now what I'll do is I'll finely slice the garlic. It's really paper thin, you can see. And this is the way you'll place it in. Why? Because if the garlic isn't paper thin, you won't get the perfect flavor or texture you've been waiting for. This is done. Place it at the back. Pick up the knife and toss it in. I shall mix it up. And then I shall just pick up 2 pieces of lemon. They should be fresh. Goes over here. Cut it into 2 halves. And now my hands are clean, as I've told you. I'll just squeeze them in the meat itself. Now you could see that there's not a lot of juice. Why? Because this is a concentrated lemon. It's pretty hard. It's not off season, but in Pakistan you have around 5 varieties of oranges and around 5 varieties of lemon, and every variety is sweeter or bitter, or more bitter or less sweeter than the other. Just use this. Why? Because your hands will be clean and they will act as something that could take the pits away of the lemon. This is done. I shall just make a fist and clear it out. Wash my hands now properly. Once you're done with the lemon, start folding it in. And this is why people say that Pakistani food or Pakistani cuisine is a luxury. Now you see the beef mince has a lot of other things that have gone in, and that is what is bringing the flavor out properly. Now I'll add a cup of yogurt. This yogurt will give the meat a nice creamy flavor. And let me tell you one thing, the way cheese is for the French, in the same way yogurt is for the Pakistani people. Now you do know that yogurt is the simplest form of cheese, and this is why we use it in our food on high heat. Oh, that's also rhyming. Okay, now we shall mix it. You have to make sure that the meat is properly coated, the whole of the mince is properly coated with the yogurt we have added in the pan. This yogurt will just evaporate within, let's say, 2 minutes on high heat, so you do not need to worry about it losing water. You need the oil to come back up. So now put it on high heat and let it cook for 2 minutes. So till the time this is cooking, we shall just get ready for the dish out process. And now I'll show you the final look of today's recipe. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. So as you can see, today's recipe is ready. I've served the recipe for at least 2 people, and I've cooked for 4 people today. I hope you liked today's episode. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.